This is Naoki Yoshida,
This is Fern Hall.
and you are listening to Aetheryte Radio.
Aetheryte Radio.
Here we go!
Hello and welcome to Aetheryte Radio, Gamerscape's Final Fantasy XIV podcast. I'm FusionX. Joining me today, we've got Xenedra and Rook.
It's us, hello.
All right, so unfortunately, Aldino got sick like last minute. He sent us a message. He's like, I don't have a voice, and I said that's unfortunate.
Oh.
So he is resting up right now, so he won't be with us. But Happy New Year for me. I was out last week because things. So we're back into the swing of things here, and of course now Aldino's out. So it's like we still don't have the full band back together, but we're doing what we can. So today, we're going to read your questions with our new segment here, Dear Aetheryte Radio. Right before we get to that, we do have a few pieces of news. So, next live letter, we've been waiting for this, is going to be Thursday, February 6th at 3 a.m. Pacific time. So, set your alarms, get your coffee ready. You're going to need it. And that'll be about patch 5.2 Echoes of a Fallen Star. So, look forward to that. We also have Valentine's Day is going to be starting here pretty soon on January 29th, and that'll run through February 17th, where you'll be able to vote for your favorite emissary of love, Astrid, Redagalt, or Bert. Every time I see Bert, like my mind immediately jumps to like, where's Ernie?
Yeah. Oh.
Where's Ernie? Right? Come on, Bert.
I had recently, like, I've been working on Blue Mage with my static, and I'd recently made an outfit that was like half black, half blue with that old like Free Company thing and the caster gloves.
Okay.
That's one's white, one's black. And I was like, I wish there were pants that were different on both legs. Thank you. Here
And now
they
you
are.
can. It's really
got it.
Yeah.
it's interesting because like you have depending on which person you vote for, you get clothing like from them, but it's like the same exact kind of thing. It dyes the same, it looks the same, but it's still like a different item just because the default color is different. So it must be a system thing, like with NPC recognizing gear or something. Like that's the only thing.
Yeah,
that
I
could
was sort of
think it would be.
surprised. I mean, I guess you have whatever base color it is different as far as just the plain base color goes, but when I was looking at it, I like scoured the pictures 3 times and went, no, that is just the exact same. No, it's the same outfit.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So what are you voting for? Do you know, or are you going to wait?
Astrid.
I knew it. I'm not, just because everybody else is.
It's funny when this went up. A lot of people on Twitter, there was a pretty good mix of who people were going to vote for. I was surprised. But no, Astrid for life. Come on now. You'll also be able to get a chocolate fountain furniture item from this event as well.
I'm in.
So, yeah, done.
Give it to me.
And that is it for news from Lodestone. As a reminder, we do have PAX East coming up here at the end of January, first week of March. Nothing announced yet, but I mean, they've done stuff in the past. Battle Challenge, at least, I would think, right? So keep an eye out for that. We'll have a few of us out there at PAX East as well. I'll be there. Rook is going to be there. And Gahu as well will be out there. So, yeah, if you're going, keep an eye out for us. All right, and that's going to take us into our segment here, Dear Aetheryte Radio. So a couple days ago, we asked you to submit your questions, and we're going to answer them to the best of our abilities. So let's just jump right into it here. This first one here comes from Miki. Says, I've led many teams in my life, but nothing has been quite as stressful as a learning party for Savage content. From keeping engagement up when you're wiping over and over on the same fight for months, to knowing when and how to remove someone who isn't taking feedback or improving. Not to mention the quirks of raiding in 14. Hot tail with surfer ticks comes to mind. For someone new is wildly frustrating in itself. Do you have any advice for someone leading a team of new raiders into the world of Savage content? Patience,
such a good question.
patience, maybe a little bit of patience.
I feel like one of the most valuable things that I've learned as a raid leader over the years is everybody learns differently.
Yes.
And if you can figure out how the people in your group learn, especially if they already know and you can straight up ask them, you can pre-prepare things so that every person in the group is going to get it.
Yeah.
There's one person in my group who is very like overly visual, and I will go and make her specifically pictures. Be like, if it's a 3-step thing, step 1, step 2, step 3, and it does help everybody else, but it especially helps her.
Yeah.
Sometimes taking people to like old arenas. I've been working on Ultimate recently, the latest one, and the group that I'm with was having trouble with their numbers in Cruise Tracer when he swipes one of you and dodges that or dives at the other one. So we went into baby mode, Waterman guy, Pepsi Man, and because it has the same floor, right?
Yeah.
So we were able to slowly, step by step, walk around that floor after we killed the Pepsi Man and be like, you stand here at this spot, you look this direction, you press this button. And it helped everybody. So for me, I think the most important thing has been figuring out how to get through people's brain confusions so that they can understand and really listening to them.
I think another really important part too, I mean, speaking from personal experience too, I was, somebody on Twitter was like, we need somebody to raid with us. And I was like, I would raid, I guess. I've never done it before. And then you realize all the things you've been doing wrong this entire time, right? Like, oh, my rotation maybe isn't as great as I thought it was. And so it's really a lot of kind of nurturing and again, patience, right? Because you may have somebody doing a dungeon is different from raiding, right? It's, okay, maybe I'm just going to go and spam whatever AoEs. It doesn't matter. Things are dying. It's not a big deal. But with raids, especially now that we have like ultimate content, like you need to be really down with your rotation. And so having a really good understanding of all the jobs that your raid team is using is really going to help. I mean, there's, lots of guides out there that you can find talking about rotations and stuff like that. Definitely worth, looking that up. And again, visual stuff is super helpful. I'm more of a visual guy myself because, I could read something or, even some like these rotations, right? They just initial like every move. And I'm like, I have no idea what this says. This is like hieroglyphics to me. Like just
it's my job and I don't get it.
Right. Yeah. I have no idea. Yeah. So it's a lot of patience. It's a lot of knowledge. And it's, I think it's one of those things too, where, if you have people on your team that do play multiple jobs, so maybe you have a monk and a dragoon, but the monk also plays dragoon, he could potentially help them out or vice versa or whatever. It's just communication and helping each other, not learn the job, but help fine tune their playing of it. I think, it's because it's not like you don't know how to play the job. It's you just need to tweak a couple things here and there. And we'll be good, and we'll have that little DPS boost that we need or whatever. So it's a lot of patience and a lot of knowing everything, which is like sucks because
along those lines, don't be afraid to explain the why, because for a lot of people, you can tell people what they're supposed to do 5,000 times over, and if they don't understand why the mechanic works that way, it's not gonna snap. But if you can,
I would say sometimes you do have to realize that why will be at a different place for everybody. And some people may, in their gameplay, it's funny, Fusion, because you say like you have to learn, not learn how to play your entire job, but in a sense you almost do, because the way that the jobs play in Savage content is different than, like you pointed out, in dungeons or in other types of content. So for somebody who's like not familiar at all, coming into raiding in 14, it can be a really overwhelming and frustrating experience trying to go through this, like over this pattern over and over and over. I don't get it. My class plays fine when I'm in a dungeon. Why can I not just do this thing? Why are we hitting DPS checks, but we just can't clear them? Why? Or in rages, and it's tough. And having coordinated a bunch of different parties and things now myself, there are some times where as a raid lead, I found like, oh man, I really feel like I failed my group, like I didn't know how to approach this in a different way. And so we just never got over this hurdle. But the more time that I've like gone back and I've played with different groups and we've tried to figure things out, I think that especially in 14, my biggest piece of advice would be patience, like everybody was saying, but the communication of patience too. I mean, immediately from the start, explaining to your new players, this is how this kind of goes. We will probably have some hurdles we cannot, you know, clear easily. We're going to have to work on this for a long time. And a lot of times people, I think, if they're brand new to raiding, underestimate that and they get frustrated, just like Miki said in her comment here. Like, they just don't know what that pace is going to be. And then they get frustrated and they leave, or they just don't want to do it anymore. But if you kind of explain, and then I think if you use all of the things in the game to help build up an understanding, it can really help. And that can be everything from like going into an arena and practicing just movements to even, you know, hey, maybe we cannot actually do Savage raiding right now. We've tried, there's some sort of specific hang up we cannot seem to get through with this set. So maybe instead we go back to an older set and we just try to get through those with like the boost a little bit that, you know, gear and things might have for us. Maybe we go into extreme primals and we really just finesse that, and then we come into current content. It's very much a process. It takes a long time and a lot of patience from everybody, and just a lot of awareness and flexibility, you know? How does everybody learn? How can I best help them if we're failing, especially as a raid lead? What can I improve on? And then what like tricks can we sort of work through in other content to help support us eventually maybe returning to Savage or trying to tackle it again or doing a different tier? It's a lot of trial and error. You try to have fun, but it can get pretty intense.
Yeah. So,
one thing that I have also, whenever I hit a wall with my group where we're just not progressing, it's been like a week or two where we'll hit the same point and maybe we'll squeak by, but we're not really like getting it. I also will go and talk to other raid leads and be like, what does your group do here? And they're perhaps doing it entirely different, or we're like missing one thing that it's not in a guide or something, you know? So don't be afraid to talk to other people. I found a lot of people get very competitive, and so they don't want to talk to other groups that may be further along, because they don't want to be like, I'm not as good as you. That's not important. The point is to do the content and have fun at the content. If you are not clearing past a certain point, it starts to make it not fun. So if that's you, maybe try swallowing your pride and talk to other people, because other people, honestly, other people love to give advice on this stuff. Especially if they're having fun doing it, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, if anybody knows something like really well, like who doesn't love to be like, oh yeah, I totally know this. Like I'll talk, you know, I can talk about it for hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So other people are a great resource. You can read all the guides in the world, but there's not going to be the same connection as when you talk to a person who can specifically explain things to you.
Yeah. One point I wanted to go back on and hit real quick is the idea of learning your job. Right, because we talked a little bit about that, and the reason I phrase it like that, I'm trying to give people a little bit of credit that they know the general rotation of their job, right? But then you might need to tweak it a little bit because of phases or whatever. It's just that little bit extra that overall is going to change a lot. So it's not that like nobody knows how to, you know, they're coming in and they're like, I've never played this job. Let's just hit buttons and see what happens. It's, you know how to play the job, right? And I think that's the other thing too is, especially when dealing with frustrations, because everybody is going to learn differently. Everybody's going to take feedback differently. And it's important, like, if you're, I know this was about leading a raid, but if you're joining a raid, you really need to try and put the ego aside just a little bit and be receptive to feedback. That's going to be hard for some people. It's just, you know, you can always get better. Improvement should always be something that you're interested in, especially if you're raiding. If you're just, you know, doing your dailies and your roulettes and stuff and you're getting through, fine. Okay, great. But if you're raiding, you really need to take a minute, look at what you're doing and say, is this going to be okay to, you know, enough to get into raiding? Or do I need to look, you know, do some practice dummies, do some, what do they call it now? Skywind Sea, or I forget. I always get that mixed up. But
Stonewind Sky?
Stonewind Sky. What? Some kind of element dummy thing. Do that, right?
Wait until the Fire Nation attacked.
Yeah. Do that, and you know, see how you do with that. And yeah.
And I think here too, something that is kind of tucked into this question that is really difficult, especially with learning progression parties, right? The idea that somebody isn't doing enough, and how do you deal with that? And we see this all the time in, you know, party finders and pugs, where one person decides, oh, we're being held back because of this person for whatever reason,
Right.
and we're just going to dogpile on them and boot them if they can't get better or things like that. But when you are in a group or leading a group that's specifically a learning progression group, I think it leaves you with this dilemma. Is it my ultimate goal to get every person in this group able to do Savage raiding no matter what? Like, am I loyal to them? Or are we setting an expectation from the beginning with this that the goal is ultimately to clear this specific content? So we will learn, we will teach, we will work, but if we cannot, for whatever reason, seem to get to this place, then our group needs to know that, like, there will have to be changes. And it's tough, right? And I think all you can ever do is try to determine what your mentality on that is going to be from the get-go, and then communicate that to everybody. And as always, I think that it's massively important to ask people not only how they learn, but also how they prefer to receive or get critique and feedback. You know, you might have somebody in your party who, like, if you DM them 50 times being like, well, you need to fix this and that and that and that, they are going to lose their mind, start sobbing, and then just never come to raid again, you know? Or you might have somebody that's like, in the moment, right there, I want you to tell me exactly what I did wrong. We need to go back over it. We need to record our raid so I can see what I did. Like, there's so many different ways that you can help people get that feedback. And you can take them into things. You can run, you know, parsing stuff with them. You can even, you know, direct people to, like, the balance and have them try to get feedback about what they're doing with their rotations. Like, there's so many tools, but you always have to establish with that person what they feel comfortable with, how they like receiving critique, and then critique them in the way that they prefer. And if you really do encounter somebody who just cannot seem to learn, or, you know, you're hitting that enrage and it literally is just a matter of not having the DPS, that's when you then go back to whatever you set for your expectation for the group. If we're trying to get everybody through this no matter what, then maybe we need to tackle some different content and learn some basics. If we are trying to clear the content as a priority, then we may need to reevaluate who's in the team and be respectful and discuss with them, but try to set goals that can be reached. And if they aren't, have that conversation, you know? It's just important to stay polite and kind and considerate, no matter what, no matter how frustrated you are. And it's a tough line to walk.
I think it's also really important to...
I was going to say on that same note, like, you as a leader hopefully can stay polite and kind and confident, like Rook has said. If the other person flips out at you, that's on them. Just, I'm sorry that it's come to this. I'm sorry that I've upset you, but this is how it is, and try not to let that affect you.
Yeah, it's a lot of getting to know everybody and how everybody works and thinks, and and I think it's also important to when making a new raid group, or if if somebody has to leave the group for whatever reason, you get a new person in, it's really important to set expectations and goals and say, okay, we're just a group of people, we're just wanting to do Savage. We know we're not like ultimate tier players, that's fine, but we want to get past this content. That, you could do that, or you could be like, all right, we're gonna do this, we're gonna get past Eden, and then I want to take this group into Ultimate. Like, that's two very different kind of mentalities that you can have. And so it's really important to let people know where, that kind of expectation is. And I think it's also important to note, too, that you're always going to have varying degrees of like DPS from players. Like, you may have one job that traditionally parses high, but maybe they are, below average, but then you have another job that is parsing above average. Like, there's always going to be that kind of in between where people make up for other people, and I think it's important to understand that as well. And it's, like, again, it's not like the one person is, holding everybody back, maybe, but is there something that other people can do if we, change what time we use abilities, or is there some kind of way where as a unit we can kind of come together and make this work a little bit better? There's so many little things once you get to that kind of DPS and rage part that you need to look at, and where can we get that little bit of extra damage from? There's so many little parts to kind of pick apart from everything.
And something you said actually made me think of something else. The fact that sometimes you will have somebody who parses a little lower than they ought to, and then maybe you'll have that other person who's just kicking ass and sort of making up for them. If that lower person also has a really great attitude, depending on your group and what your group wants. If that person has a really great attitude, they're really trying, they do all the mechanics correctly, they just can't necessarily get the flow of their rotation perfectly. If you're clearing, what's it matter? Finding somebody with a good attitude who's going to respond well to learning and your requests is almost just as important. In my opinion.
Having fun is ultimately what you want to look at, right? Like, yeah, you want to clear the stuff, but if you're getting frustrated about it, that's not going to be good for anybody, because that doesn't take long for that to, you know, turn into an argument in the group, and then multiple people leave, and it can get bad real quick. So it's just patience, and, you know, find out how everybody likes their feedback, and just, you know, have fun.
And I think that actually, what you just said totally made me think of something that I don't often consider with groups, but we talk a lot about, you know, I mean, just mechanically doing stuff, learning fights, getting rotations, perfecting that, making sure you're equipped, you've got gear, food, pots, whatever you're using to try and up that, right? But especially with these kind of learning groups, it might also be really good to have a conversation at the beginning, asking every person in the group, like, what are your goals for this? You know, are you content and happy? Like, is everybody okay if, like, our first priority is getting together and having fun 3 times a week or whatever we're doing? Or is your goal to parse high? Is your goal to clear the whole tier and then work on ultimate? It's interesting to me because it seems like whenever parties really explode and fall apart, it's usually because of a couple different things, right? Somebody who really aggressively, like, thinks, like, we have to, you know, we're going to do this. We have to get through this. We got to clear it. I want to get through everything. That's my top priority. And then maybe there's a few other people that are like, having fun is mine. And everybody's like arguing about it. And, you know, or it's that people aren't really communicating well with each other. And there, you know, are these conflicts, or, you know, critique is being received in a poor way or being given in a poor way. So I think that it's important to have players that are on the same page, who have the same goals. And, you know, if there's a way to bring everybody's goals together and then talk about that and be like, hey, well, if we're just here to have fun 3 times a week, let's work on what we can. But hey, let's also not worry too much if it takes us a while, or if it is about, again, like that, let's clear it, let's get through it. We want to be through this fast, or, you know, whatever it is. Then, I mean, you can kind of gear more towards that. And that'll also help set that expectation of, you know, here's the goals that we have and how we accomplish them. And if we're not making it in enough time, then we have to all be willing to evaluate and work on it and critique, you know?
You said something about being able to deliver the critique. Well, that's something else. As a leader, just because you're the leader, you are not infallible. You will make mistakes. So just be aware of that. And if somebody points it out to you, don't get offended just because you're in charge. It's important to listen to everybody else too. I guess that and the fact that if you're really wanting your group to do well, you will be doing more work than everyone else. Just accept that.
Yeah, it's the truth. I mean, you're going to be doing so much as a raid lead, and it can be really overwhelming. But it is important to remember that when it comes down to it, you're going to be that cornerstone for the group, right? So your skills have to be really finessed in a way that other people might not have to. And nothing is like more awkward than like coming into a group with a raid lead who is either like really disrespectful to everybody, or is super scattered and never schedules things right, or, you know, is just all over the place, or that person, like you were saying, that always is the first one to give critique to everybody else but will never acknowledge their own error. Or, I mean, there's all these things. And this isn't necessarily, you know, directly like feedback, you know, for Miki, who asked the question here, but this is something that I think everybody can look out for, especially as a raid lead. How are your players and the group you're working with responding to you? Do they seem as though they are positive and having a good time? Do they seem as though they are feeling good when they come out of raid, even if you have struggled to make progress? Like, that's a really good marker for what you've been doing well. And that is the top priority, that as a leader, you are the one who is being more mature and more polite and more respectful than anybody else in your group, because the group can't stay together if you don't foster an environment that actually brings everybody together.
Yeah. And, you know, talking about that point too, about, you know, coming out of a raid, if, you know, if you haven't progressed at all, I think it's also really important to, I mean, this is a global game, right? Obviously, you're on, going to be playing on a data center, right? So everybody is more or less in the same time frame-ish. But, I mean, in NA, right, we have like a 3-hour difference between the West and the East Coast. So it's really important, I think, too, to figure out, when you're going to meet and how long you're going to raid. Is 2 hours okay? Is 3 hours, like, where are people's priorities? When is it too long for people, right? Especially if you have one of those nights where you're just not getting anything, progress. Like, that can be terrible, right?
We've definitely had a night where it was just like, this isn't going anywhere. You guys want to do something else?
Yeah.
Everybody feels bad. Just go do something easy.
Right. I mean, know everybody's schedule. I mean, my very first raid group, this is dating me a little bit, right? Turn 5 back in the day, is when I was still working graveyard. And so, we had the time came up. I'm like, all right, I need to go to bed, and I might get 5 hours of sleep if I'm lucky before work. And they're like, oh no, stay a little bit more. I'm like, no. And that resulted, like, the raid leader kept pushing. That resulted in a shouting match, and I left the raid. I left the team. I left the free company. It was a huge blowout. It sucked. So yeah, it's just be aware of responsibilities that other people have, and reality and life, and the time that people have, and be respectful of that time. And
along those lines, go ahead.
Oh, no, it's just real fast. I was going to say that's a really good point, because, I mean, you should never push a player to do something that they are uncomfortable with, and you have to acknowledge that they have a real life, Yeah. So, I mean, again, it's like that priorities discussion. If Ultimate is coming out and we're going to do Ultimate, great. Is our team going to do Ultimate 10 hours every single day until we clear it? Or, like, is our team, saying, hey, no, I can't. Sorry. I have a job and a spouse, or, pets, or a life. I love sleeping. I mean, those are things that you have to respect. And knowing what time frame people have to run, and just what their own natural sort of schedule is too, right? Like, if you get a group and half of your members, you're like, oh yeah, the only time that we have is to run at night, but half of your members like pass out on themselves every single night, like, because they're tired.
Might want to take another look at that.
Yeah, and you just have to pay attention to that, and nobody should ever be made to feel like, if they are there for the commitments of the raid that you have established, right? And this is huge, because I also had a bad falling out when somebody was like, oh yeah, well, we said that, these numbers are great. But what I actually meant, without ever communicating it, was that we want everybody to be purple parsing. And that if you're ever lower than a purple parse, you aren't pulling your weight in this group. And I was like, well, maybe you should have put that in the rules if that's what mattered to you,
And that's okay. If that's what you want out of your group, and the people that join it are fine with that, then that's fine.
Right.
Yeah.
But you have to be clear about that, definitely.
Yes. If you have goals for that group, or if you have expectations that you stay late if you need to stay late, or things like that, you have to communicate it. You cannot play this game of, oh, well, if you cared, you would have just known that. And it's like, no. It's like, people have lives, and that has to be respected.
What I was going to say is, in a specific situation where somebody does not show up to raid, does not say anything, is just not there, try and not be angry at first, at least, because you don't know, especially if it's the first time this is happening, you don't know why. They could have been in a car accident for all you know, right? That's hopefully not their fault, and they could be in like the hospital or something, right? So later on, you're gonna feel like a jerk if you're like, oh my god, so and so number 3, that guy's a dick not showing up. Oh wait, they were in the hospital. Now you're the dick.
Right. Yeah. A little sympathy goes a long way. Like, so I mean, I can remember same rage quit Twintania group. We were getting ready to go in, and I was like messing. I had just gotten like a new keyboard, right? And so you have the little like wrist thing that snaps into it. And I'm like, I'm gonna play without it for a little bit, see if that feels better. Well, I pulled it off, and one of the clips broke and like cut my finger. So I'm like, I'll be right back. I need to go get a Band-Aid. And they're like, what do you mean you need a Band-Aid? I'm like, I cut my finger. Like, what? Give me a minute. Damn. Like,
I'm bleeding.
Yeah, it's just
mid-pull, my nose starts bleeding. Sorry, I'm not gonna stay.
Yeah, a little bit of humanity goes a long way sometimes. So
much, and breaks.
Be an adult.
Like, don't be afraid to take breaks. Or like Zen said, if there's a night where you really are not making progress, or if there's a fight where you're really just it's been months and you cannot get past this thing, do literally anything else. Do literally anything else.
Yeah.
Like, if it's more important to you that the group stays together, do anything else that will give you a break. And take breaks during your sessions. Let people get up, get water, stretch. If people are really frustrated, give them a break, give them a change of pace. It goes such a long way. And this goes for anybody too who's like pugging or PFing. If there is a fight or a thing that anytime you get into a group to do it, you automatically feel overwhelmed with just like negativity and frustration, and you're like, oh, this is gonna suck. Like, just don't do it for a while.
Yeah.
Do literally anything else that will make you happy in the game and give you goals that you can achieve. Because morale is hugely important, and nobody wants to be feeling bad about themselves or bad about the group or bad about other people. And at the end of the day, that's what matters more than anything. That everybody comes out of it feeling like they've gotten something and that they had a good experience, however they want to quantify that.
Have we answered the question?
I think we're good. I think we're good.
Also, Hot Tail with server ticks did suck, and I did hate it, and that's all.
Yeah, I mean, that's important. And I mean, you know, sometimes I have a friend of mine lives on the East Coast. Sometimes he just gets crazy lag, and that's just how it is sometimes for him. And so it's, you know, it happens, right? Like, it could happen at the worst possible time, but it does happen. So it's just, yeah, patience, humanity.
There's memes about this stuff, but they exist because it does happen.
Yeah, it is a real thing. Yeah. So, all right, that was the first question.
Hopefully we helped you out, Miki. Thank you for writing in.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so this next one comes from Cinnamon Farts.
Who has the best name?
It's a great name. It's why are we as a community so terrified of asking each other questions? I see a lot of people struggling with the same thing over and over again. Usually it's something pretty simple that a question would fix in a jiffy, but no one ever seems to want to ask the question. I want to see everyone succeed, but I also don't want to be a butt-in-ski and tell, I love that word, and tell people what to do. So I find the lack of interrogative frustrating. I read that wrong. I didn't split that right. That's not from Cinnamon Farts at all. My bad. I put this outline in here, and I divided, I split the questions, and I did it bad. This one is from Arlen Sylvester of Coral. I personally think it's that people don't want to acknowledge that they don't know something.
They don't want to be embarrassed.
Right? Yeah.
The best thing you can do to help with the situation, in my opinion, is to make sure that if you are in a situation where somebody does squeak out that question, you don't embarrass them. Then they'll do it again. They'll keep asking.
It's if somebody asks a question, right? There's that thing. There's no such thing as a dumb question, right? And it's important to, if it is a question that maybe people should know, right? You know, not a dumb question, but a dumb question, right? It's one of these things where give them an honest answer, but don't be a dick about it. Because if you are, they're not going to ask about anything else ever again. And then that's going to be that person you're in a dungeon with, and you're like, why aren't you AoEing this giant pole? Well, 2 years ago, I asked a question, and this guy was a dick to me, and now I just don't ask questions anymore, and whatever. Like, be nice to people. There's somebody else on the other end of that.
Yeah, don't say, why aren't you AoEing this? Like, if you can, try and phrase it in
a way that's not gonna make this whole argument thing kind of start, right? Like, it's like AoE the stuff. Excuse me, you don't pay my sub. Like, I'll play how I want to. Like that. There's no way that's gonna end end well, unless it's just a person that's like, oh, look, sorry. Like, you gotta be nice to people.
I had Halatali hard yesterday, running roulettes, right? And this person, it's the smallest thing between pulls. The bard was not using Peloton, and I was like, hey, at this level, do you have Peloton?
Super little thing, yeah.
I wasn't really sure. Because what level even is Halatali hard? I think it's 50, so they probably had Peloton. But just just to be sure, just to open it up in kind of a nice way. Like, hey, is this the thing you have right now? Yeah, I have it. Would you mind using it between pulls so we can do a little Swifty foot? Like,
yeah.
you can maybe get away with even using a cute phrase, depending on
some of
who
these
you
some
are.
of these players didn't have 1.0 time chest to worry about those, and they don't understand the need to.
Well,
Cute phrases go a long way in softening the blow for
when
something,
we
or
got
emotes.
Yeah, when we got into the dungeon, it was me and a tank. We queued up together, and then we had this other bard, and then we had the fourth person was like, I don't want to do this, and left. And the other DPS, the other person was like,
Okay.
Oh, okay. And we're like, no, we got this. We can do this with 3 people. And we did. We did just fine with 3 people. But it was taking a little bit longer. So it was like, can we have Peloton?
Yeah.
Let me ask in the nicest way. And they did it for the rest of the dungeon. They were like, yeah, I have it. Sure, no problem. It's already on my bar. I got this. Thanks, friend. And they were like, this is my first time here. I don't know what I'm doing. I love when people do that. This is my first time here. It's like, I got you. I will tell you what to do as long as I remember. You know,
it's like, come on over. Let's take a dungeon walk with me. Let's do this.
Get on in here. I'm gonna give you the full tour.
Yes.
I mean, it's baffling to me that the people who oftentimes complain that people don't care and new players don't want any advice and they've got their own heads up their butts and all this stuff are oftentimes the people that have kept any new player from ever asking a question ever.
Yeah.
And the idea of a new player approaching you about something, and I have seen this happen over and over and over. Like a new player asks a question, and then like 3 older players meme on them for like 15 minutes. And I sit there like, buddies, they literally just asked you one question. Please stop making jokes at them. They don't get what you're saying. They don't even know what that ability is. Like, and then they're sitting there going, okay, well, apparently I just missed something, but I'm also a big idiot because of the way that they're treating me. And I still don't even have an answer to my question. So like, there's that side of it where people assume that not having, it's funny, like they assume that not having knowledge about the game makes you an idiot, one, which it doesn't. It just means that you don't have that knowledge. Once you have that knowledge, you can use it. But then it's also that people do, just like you're pointing out, give feedback in a way that can be incredibly aggressive and shut down the process of questions, right? How many mentors have you seen, or people, I mean, there's great mentors out there, but people who you get into a dungeon and rather than saying like what you did, Zen, you know, hey, do you have this ability? Oh, you know what? It's actually super helpful if you could do that between, like, that is a little piece of info that you're giving them and you're opening up the floor for more questions. But how many times have you seen somebody go, what is wrong with you? Why aren't you using your dots? Or like, you're such a dumbo. Please stop doing this thing that you're doing that's a big dumb thing. And like the person is standing there with the sprout over their head in the low level gear, and you're like, want to try again, buddy? Because if you're
like run into Sasha, and you're like, why aren't they the best player ever? I don't understand.
If you see that, there's almost nothing better you can do than be like, dude, lay off. They're new.
Yes. Just be like,
and then that person's like, oh God, it's not just me. Oh, thank goodness, right? That person's like, immediate relief for them.
Immediate relief. It's a two-way street, right? As players, we can't be afraid of asking questions, whether you're new or a veteran. You have to just accept that learning information is a part of the process. But as other players, we have to facilitate an environment that prompts and encourages the asking of questions. And you can do that so many ways. In a dungeon, you know, you say like, hey, is anybody new? Or are these just alts? Like if you see sprouts or things, say like, hey, if you need any help, let me know. Oh, I noticed like when you're doing this thing, like, could I maybe give you a little tip on that? Because I was real bad at that. Like I was so bad at that when I started tanking myself. And sometimes if you take off that, like, I'm a veteran, you're a newbie, I'm going to lord this over you thing, and you just talk to somebody like they are a person you are running with, crazy idea, and that you might want to help, people will start asking questions left and right. It's like a torrent.
Yeah. A little bit ago.
Phrases right there is the, would you mind some advice?
Yeah.
If they don't want advice, they will tell you. If they were afraid to ask questions, you just opened up the doors in a nice way.
And then you'll have the people that are offended that they think you know, like they need help or something. Like it's unavoidable, right? At some point, even if you ask nicely, somebody's gonna get offended. But a little bit ago in the chat, D Paladin D said lots of stories about this group fusion when I was talking about the bad experiences I had, and that I want to use. Well, no, so I want to take that and reinforce the idea of a negative experience will stick with somebody, right? Positive experience could also, right, do that. But that, you know, a negative experience, like asking that, you know, like how we started this, right? It's that idea of if you ask a question and you get a negative response, that's going to really stick with a player. And so it's really important, just, you know, they're a person just like you, right? They take feedback differently. Be nice, you know, as nice as you can. If they take it negatively, you did the best you could. If they are receptive to feedback, great, you know, talk to them and, you know, try and have a fun dungeon. But it's just, yeah, it's, you know, people are people, right? All these players are people, except for the ones with the weird names. Those are the RMTs. So we don't talk about them. We just auto block them.
And on the
Those
flip
are not
side of
people.
that, if you have a bad experience because you tried to nicely offer advice and, like Fusion said, they just didn't respond, don't let that dishearten you.
Yeah.
Maybe you couldn't help that guy, but you'll help the next guy. So don't let that sour your initiative to put happiness and knowledge out into the world.
And it's important, I think, too, like, you're going to have negative experiences. I hate to, like, tell you that. It's going to happen. It's unavoidable. There are a lot of people that play this game, but you're also going to have really good experiences. And so if you have a bad experience, don't, you know, stay on it too long, right? It's just, it happened, move on. You'll find something else that'll be, you know, more enjoyable and stuff, you know, going forward. So it's just, you know, have fun. If you're playing this game.
It is a person. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, just focus on having fun. Like, that's, you know, any of these questions asking about how should I do stuff, well, you know, just have fun. Make sure you're having fun. Don't be a dick. Have fun.
Game.
Done.
Yes,
That's the answer to everybody else's question. We're done. Good show. Moving on. All right. All right.
What I was going to say was, yes, it is a person on the other side of that text or whatever. So keep that in mind, that they have feelings and stuff. But it is just one person in a sea of 5,000. So if you have a negative experience with them, more than 5,000. I don't know why I said 5,000.
I'm like, that's an odd number. Where did you get that one from?
The 5,000 players,
fair.
only people in the whole world playing Final Fantasy XIV. We all know each other by name.
We're a small group.
A small little group.
Going
tiny
back to
little
1.0 again.
It's
Anyhow,
just missing a few million in that number, but
That's
that's
just
okay.
one person and one bad attitude amongst a sea of much better ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question actually comes from Cinnamon Farts.
Yeah.
For real this time. I apologize about that. As a new player who's just finished Stormblood and working into Shadowbringers, what is something or what kind of advice would you give other new players just starting out in the game? Also, what are things you wish to know? You wish you knew when you started at 14 that you know now that you could pass on to people learning the game for the first time. All right, so we'll split this in half here. Something or advice that you'd give other new players just starting out in the game. We are pre 2.0 consolidation right now. That storyline is long. It takes a while to get through. It's a lot of kind of BS quests and stuff. Like, you want to fight Titan? Great. Go. We need to have a banquet. So please spend, you know, a few hours. Do you not like banquets?
The banquet quest is the only quest in the entire game that I looked at my husband and I was like, all right, I am sick of this. It's like no other
how were you when you got to the Heavensward Moogles?
I mean, to be fair, I never finished the Moogles because when I got sick of that, I just stopped because it wasn't actually main story. Well, I mean, I guess there is that leg that you do in the main story, right? But at least there, it was kind of fun, and I was really curious about the zone, and the Moogles were delightful. The Moogle Beast Tribe quests I got into, and I was like, nah, I'm good. So someday I'll go back and do those. But yeah, the banquet quest is rough.
Yeah, I think it's just, there's, you know, it is an MMO, it is an RPG, it is a game designed to take time. But I think, you know, the benefit that we do have is that the man at the helm, Mr. Naoki Yoshida, acknowledges that, you know, his kind of philosophy, right, is people will come when there's new content, they'll play that for a little bit, they'll get bored, and then they'll go play another game, and that's fine. So the idea of, you know, it'll take a little bit of time. There's some stuff for people that want to stick around to grind on, right? But, you know, if you are working on anything in the game, take a break. It's okay. You know, go play something else. There's lots of games coming out. Or, you know, find something else in game to do, to take away from, you know, if you're trying to like grind out like a relic weapon or get a clear on, you know, an extreme primal or something. There's lots of other stuff that you can do. So go ahead and oh, you're having some issues in the chat there.
I tried to post the link for I tried to post
we haven't modded you yet on here since you jeez. We're just a little behind on
I posted a terrible link in the chat, and now
how dare you
for a question submission. So
how dare you? Let me let's see here. Where's the button? There should be a button somewhere. I don't see the button.
I mean,
it's not
okay.
showing up on this UI. We'll figure that out later.
If one of you wants to post the link, we just had a question about where can I submit questions.
My gosh, I can't believe we haven't modded you yet.
Copy.
I got
paste. Okay.
All right, there we go. Problem solved. We need to change that part of our onboarding process for hosts. Please mod them on Twitch. Whoops. I don't even. What was I even saying?
I've ruined everything.
There's lots of stuff to do. If you get bored with something, or if you feel like you're grinding on something, go do something else. Level a crafter, level a gatherer. You know, play around with blue mage. I mean, there's so many different things that you can do.
Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yay!
Right
look at that.
Right
See how he brought that back around.
But honestly, don't be afraid to ask questions. There are plenty of people who are like, "Yeah, I love to answer questions. I want you to be a great player. Yeah, let's have fun. Oh my god."
Yeah, and if you are starting too, something I always, you know, if I see people on Twitter that people I know, they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get into this game." On our wiki, you'll see the link pop up in the chat if you're joining us live. We do have a page. It's a guide for progression in each expansion that will just give you the whole thing of like, all right, these are the quests, these are the features or, you know, dungeons or trials that you can unlock while you're going through. It's really helpful to just get kind of an idea of what, you know, you need to do and what you'll do as you're going through the MSQs for everything. So, if you're a new player or you know somebody that's, you know, getting into the game, find that progression guide, send it over to them, give them an idea, you know, of what they're going to be in for, and what they can get. And it's, yeah, I always link that to people. It's really helpful for new players getting into stuff.
And he's not just saying that because it's on our website. It's actually very helpful.
It's super helpful.
The rest of the wiki is very helpful if you're stuck someplace. Look up literally anything around you and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of people, and I mean, you see this all over the internet, right? But people who will say like, oh, well, just Google it or wiki it, right? But it is so helpful. It's so helpful. And especially in 14, just try really hard, and this is usually what I tell a lot of people, not to get super overwhelmed, right? There's a lot of story to work through. There's a lot of side content. I mean, you're going to be going through stuff, and then there's going to be this thing that pops up for the gold saucer, and you're like, I just don't even know what that is. What am I supposed to do that right now? You're going to see raids come up. You're going to see all these different things that you unlock over the course of the game. And I hear a lot from new players. Like, I'm so overwhelmed right now. I just don't even feel like I would be able to get this game, whatever that means, right? And it's important to remember that there's a lot of stuff to do, but you don't have to do it all at once. And if something
there's some stuff you don't even have to do at all.
You don't ever have to do it, right? So let that main quest, that main story quest, be your guide. And a lot of times I will tell people like, hey, if it's your first time through, I know you're going to unlock Palace of the Dead and you're going to want to grind it for like 3 weeks because that's what I did. And then you're going to sit there and go, is this all that Final Fantasy is? It's not, I promise. Like, focus that main story quest, let it guide you through. Usually I tell people, get one character up to max level. The quest itself will kind of facilitate that. And explore all the other stuff at your own pace. Don't rush it. Don't feel like I have to get caught up to whatever end game is. They do a really nice job of just rolling you into it. And whenever you get to the point ready for end game, you're going to be able to get geared. You're going to be able to do that stuff if that's what you want to do. And with that, don't be afraid. Like, if your friends or other players are saying to you, hey, let me know if you want me to come tag along for quests and stuff. Don't be afraid to say, yes, come with me. it will be more fun. Because
Not to
honestly,
mention,
the player base loves it. Like we love going back and seeing other people experience the story. So if you're feeling lonely, don't feel like you are being a burden by letting other people come and help you, because this game really does have a community that loves to do that. And nothing is worse than seeing people get overwhelmed, out, distracted, unsure, not have someplace to ask questions, and not have anybody to play with. So don't be afraid of any of that. It's so worth it to reach out and just play at your own pace and have fun.
there are certain dungeons where if you get them in like roulette and you're helping a new person, like every time I'm helping a new person through vaults, I'm like, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no.
I've had that a couple times this year where I see friends that are like getting back into it and they're like getting into Heavens where they're like, I really like this Harshafont character, and I'm just like, I cannot wait for like the tweet now, right? Like, oh my god, you know, it's just like you're just sitting there, or you know, on the other end you have Shadowbringers like, oh, I can't wait till they get to Amarot, right? It's just that like I get so excited seeing people get through the game and you know get into certain parts, like oh my gosh. The other half of that question, what are things you wish you knew when you started that you know now? Any like little tips? Or I think for me, this is kind of when the game first came. Well, when A Realm Reborn came out, right? Totally different client for 1.0. Our micro menu was like 3 like rows high. There were a lot of little buttons and stuff in there, and then they simplified it down to like just 1 row of buttons. Play around with the UI. There's a lot of really cool stuff you can do with your hotbars. Like I have mine, I click on one and it brings up just a whole bunch of another hotbar on the side with all the different jobs that I use. I can click on that, change jobs right there instead of going into the character menu and you know going through that way. It's just, there's a lot of stuff you can do with UI now. I mean, and it's just, you can really personalize it to make it exactly how you want and exactly the way that lets you, you know, play optimally, right? Without trying to sound like some elitist asshole. It's just, maybe you don't want the map over here. You want the map over here. Like there's so many things you can do. And yeah, definitely take some time and look at that. There's a lot of creative things that people have done with their UI and using macros and stuff.
Off of that, I mean, just as like a little note on the end, that goes for like literally everything on the UI, because this took me a really long time to find out too, and I wish I'd known it from the start. But like anything, colorblind modes, like there's all sorts of different stuff that that's in the game that you can use. Or even if you find that like your debuffs are hard for you to see on an enemy and you're playing like Bard or you're playing Summoner or something, you can literally change the size of those debuffs. Bigger. And make them big and stick them in the middle of your screen. So if you find that that's tough, you can alter it. And the same goes for controller versus keyboard. If you are somebody who's like, well, I could only play this on PC, but I don't think I could do all the keybinds, whether for mobility issues or just for your own comfort, right? You can just like plug a controller in and the game is optimized for that. So there's a lot of flexibility and it is truly cross-platform. So it's honestly like it's great and flexible and you can adjust so many things.
Yeah, I mean other games have adopted the control scheme for 14. That's how well it was implemented. So yeah, it's just there's so many things.
Exactly. I was like, how did you pick one so quickly? I have no idea. There's so many things. There really
is. And you know, kind of mixing that with progression and kind of taking your time. Take your time with everything. Like this game will be around for a while. Like it's not going anywhere. You know, it's not like, oh, the servers are shutting down next month or anything. Take your time, enjoy this. If you're a story person, not everybody is, enjoy the story. It is, if you're not a story person, I would encourage you to enjoy the story or try to enjoy the story. It's just, yeah, I mean, there's no need to rush through anything. It's just
very specific thing I thought of.
Okay.
Somebody else taught me maybe like a year or two ago. You know that recommendations tab that everybody's like, go away.
Yes.
I have it set up on a little hotkey, and I have it set to hunts because when you enter a zone, it tells you what your hunts are, so you don't have to keep flipping through the bills, being like, "What do I have in the zone?"
It's funny because when we were reading this question, I was like, there was this really great one I saw on Twitter. I think Mary retweeted it like a month or so ago, and I don't remember what it is, That's what it was.
It wasn't him that told me either.
Okay, I think it was him, but yeah, it's a great.
It might have been, but I didn't.
That's a really
yeah,
good one.
And that's another thing. And I know I think we have something a little later on. I don't know if we'll get to it today or not. We do have a lot of questions to go through. But with leveling, right? Something I wish I knew now. Hunts kind of came a little bit later after launch, but if you're working on leveling stuff, do not underestimate the XP that you get from hunts. It can really give you quite a bit of.
If you have limited time. Like,
yes.
If you have limited time, or and you're or if you're you're in a queue for a dungeon that's just not coming up, go do hunts.
Yes.
Go do hunts.
Or beast tribes that are close to your level. I mean, like, obviously the most current beast tribes will give you, a good hunk of experience. But I mean, even if you're leveling something that's like around 50 and you go and you do like the 50 beast tribe quests, like you can go and just turn those over while you wait on queues, and it gives you a lot of XP.
On that note too, real quick, I would also encourage people not to level exclusively via beast tribe quests.
Yeah, don't. No. Unless they're gonna be your best friend. But...
Well, it's that it's that idea of like, how did you get this job to your level? Like, you have no idea what you're doing. Play for a variety of content on that class to get a feel for the different types of content you'll play on that class. But like, I've been doing Dancer a little bit, which is weird because I was like totally on Dancer, but I log in, I go, okay, well, I'm done with all the Pixie Tribe Beast quests. I might as well use it for XP, so I just take my Dancer over to Ilmeg, and I'm only a couple levels away from cap now. So
Dancer away to 80.
I figure I have the gear already for my machinist. Might as well level something else that can use it. I can't do that with my Dragoon's gear, so.
Something else that I kind of wish I'd known is, I mean, all of these are so great, and Zen, like Zen said, there's a lot of little things hidden that can be really great, whether it's your hunt logs or it's challenge logs and like Eureka. So if you kind of go through those tabs that you have, the logs, the hunts, all those sorts of things, that can be really, really good. But in addition to that, I wish that I had realized as a new player coming into the game, because there is so much story and there's so much stuff, it's not really until you're pretty far down the road that you kind of realize what the formula is of the game, if that makes sense. Right? So where you're going like, okay, so I'm in the first leg of the game. I'm going to do all my main quests. I'm going to get whatever class I want up to level. Now I'm in the end game of A Realm Reborn. So what does that mean? How do I get gear? What do I do? Like, there's all these questions that kind of happen, but there is very much a formula that over time they have kind of established, right? So typically you're going to have sort of your main story hub, which will be sort of like an ARR, your home state, your home city. And then you're going to have some kind of like end game city hub, right? So like Mordona or gosh,
I remember Mordona.
Yeah, like there are going to be these sort of big cities that will have hubs of information, quests, bonus dungeons, hard dungeons, all those things that you kind of want. And when you first get through ARR, you don't really know that. So you kind of get to the end and then you're like, oh, I guess I'll get that. Okay, what's this thing? I guess I'll get those. Oh, did I miss? I don't have that. Well, how do I find? Like, and it gets really confusing. So if you kind of look for that pattern, right, where you're like, okay, so here's this city that I know is probably going to be my hub. Okay, now I'm at endgame. So I'm going to look for this other city. What quests are here? How are they marked? Where can I get them? Are they for dungeons? Those sorts of things. And the vendors that are specifically for the gear in those areas. It repeats through everything. So the exact same thing is going to happen in Heavensward. The exact same thing is going to happen in Stormblood, where you have these central hubs, and you will always kind of go back and forth between them. And it's a nice, tidy way of not feeling like, I don't even know where I get everything, so I'm not going to even try to unlock it, You can usually start in those major locations and then, like, repeat the cycle as you go through in your new hubs. And if you ever get, like, confused or lost, again, things like Gamer Escape, things like any.
I was gonna say this sounds like just another big advertisement for the progression guide.
No, but I mean, all of those will give you a really good idea. Like, you can look up a list of, okay, well, I finished all my regular dungeons. Am I missing any? What are the dungeons in Stormblood? What are the hard you can look those up and then get them all. And it's great to just do that as you go through, because then you're going to unlock those roulettes. You're going to unlock all of that stuff. You're going to do the raids. You're going to get great story. And it's not going to feel like down the road you're going to have this stuff that you don't even remember, that you don't even know where to get from, way earlier on.
You said vendors. That's another thing that I'd like to add to the list of stuff for new people. A lot of stuff comes from vendors. Anything, not anything, but a lot of the stuff you can buy off the market board. You can find at a vendor for cheaper.
Yeah.
People go to those vendors, buy those things, and sell them on the market board for more to make money. There's nothing wrong with that. However, if you want to be smart and savvy with your gil, look those things up. Lots of the pieces of gear actually have on them now that they can be purchased from a vendor. You don't even have to look it up online. If you want to know where from, you might have to look it up online, but you can just look at the piece of gear and it says, this is from a vendor. So you don't waste your money, especially as a new player. You probably don't have money to be wasting.
If you're, if you have to squeeze every gil, right, and you're out in the market bar and you're like, I need pants, and it's like, those are expensive pants. Go onto the wiki. You can search by item level, find the job, the class, the range of pants you need, and maybe you'll find one at a vendor for cheaper.
Yeah, that's huge. And you can do that for leveling alts too, right? So like rather than, my gear's kind of, outdated, I guess I'll just go to the market board and buy whatever's on there that's closest to me. Just like go, if you're like between 50 and 60, go to Heavensward where you would have gotten levels 50 and 60. Go to Ishgard, go up to the vendor, and they have little tabs that are just like gear for 50 to 51, gear for, and
they've gotten really good with making that kind of gear available, especially if you're like working on leveling alts or something too. Like go to so we talked a little bit about how there's like your different hubs and stuff. So as you go through the expansions, the levels of stuff is going to change, right? So you're in Mordona, that's going to be your 50 cap. As you go into like Heavensward areas, that's going to be 60. Ralger's Reach, Kugane, 70. So there's that kind of progression with the levels there. If you are jumping in, you're like, all right, I need like level 60 gear for something, head on over to like Idleshire or go into Ishgard. There might be some NPCs there that can give you some gear for a little cheaper. Or just, run the dungeons, right? Try and get some gear that way and then get XP while you're doing it. So,
yeah. And that's a really good point too. I actually have been leveling in alts recently, and going from one expansion to the next, if you don't have your gear towards the cap, you're not going to be able to do things like fates, which are actually pretty good XP too.
Yeah.
That fate will eat you alive. So
yeah, gear can be really weird too.
Yes. Don't be afraid to just get some off a vendor.
Right now, I think so. My dancer, right? I'm like 78, right? The cap is 80. I'm at 78. I'm still using most of the gear I think I got from the end of Stormblood, my level 70 stuff, because it's upgraded and you can use it for a while.
Yeah. The stuff you get from dungeons, it's level 63 or 65 is around the same as that fully upgraded gear that
it takes a little while to get up to that point. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, like, I've been trying to upgrade it, right, a little bit, but in a couple levels, and I'm mostly doing pixie quests or like alliance roulettes anyway, right? Once I get the cap, I'll be fine. But I mean, keep in mind to keep your gear updated a little bit. But if you are weapons especially, but yeah, if you are at a point where you you get to that kind of end game hub for one of the expansions, it's not a terrible idea to invest in that gear and try and get the upgrade stuff, because that'll last you for a pretty good chunk of time. So
yeah, and like Fusion said, it depends on how you're leveling. If you're doing your pixie quests, if you're doing hunts, if you're doing Palace of the Dead, I guess Heaven on High at that point, you don't really need to worry about your gear that much. But especially if you're gonna hit media and be like, goodbye forever, job, I'll see you in an expansion, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess probably one of the last things that would come to mind for me is that there's a lot of like technical stuff about actually going through the game, but there's this whole other side to Final Fantasy, which is just the community. And the community is awesome. Like, there are some really amazing groups and some really cool things that go on in Final Fantasy XIV. And sometimes I come across new players who are saying, like, I'm having a really hard time finding my place here. I'm having a really hard time finding anybody to play with. None of my friends play, or all my friends left. Or I don't really like the data center that I'm on, or whatever it is, right? And it's important to remember that just like getting to know a game is kind of a process that takes time and energy and questions and all that stuff, getting invested in the community is also something that just takes a little bit of trial and error, right? So as you sort of get more into the game and you figure out what you want to do in the game, you can figure out how you want to sort of expand that into the social sphere if you want to, right? If you're a big raider, you might want to make sure that you're on a data center where there's a lot of active raiding. If you're somebody who's looking for more of a social connection, don't underestimate places like Crystal, where even though there is a lot of RP, that oftentimes means that there's a lot of people who really, really want to do stuff and do activities and talk and create bonds and have fun together, because that's kind of what goes hand in hand with that. So, I mean, don't be afraid. Try out FCs. If one really isn't working for you, leave it. Go to a different one. Make sure that if you are in an FC and you're looking for social connections, that you also reach out to the people there, right? Try to join for runs. Try to talk to people. Try to say hello. Don't get too discouraged if, you know, it takes a little bit of trial and error to find a place that you really like and people that you really enjoy playing with. Because the worst thing ever is like somebody gets into an FC and they just say, I didn't feel really great about this. I don't think I like the game. I don't like the server I'm on. And then they just stop playing. When there could be some really cool stuff, even groups that might take your interest them into something you didn't even expect. You know, we've got people who do a lot of D&D stuff. That we've got people who, gosh, are doing fully staged productions of Shakespeare. Like, there's so much stuff out there, including raiders and all sorts of things that you can get involved in and find kind of an outlet for yourself socially and creatively. It's really cool. It's really neat.
Did we do it?
I think we
Is that
did.
all our advice for new characters?
The 3 seconds of silence tells me it's time to move on.
Yeah.
All right. This next question here. Very new to the game, and my wife is wanting to start playing as well. She's never played anything like an MMO and picked Paladin as her first class. I'm trying to decide what class to roll with her so we can go through the story at the same place. What would you suggest? My first thought was Conjurer and a White Mage to be her healer, but I've already done the beginning of that story. I'll redo it if it's the best option. I'm trying to decide if maybe DPS to help her down mobs faster until I can lock another healer. So what would be good to complement a new tank? And then advice for players who are new to the game and MMORPGs. Oof, they are in. Your wife is in for some fun. It's going to be overwhelming. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You know, again, we're gonna just go back. It's lots of patience, lots of learning. You know, don't rush through anything. I think complementing a tank, I do think a healer would probably be the best way to go with that, is what my gut would say.
If you want healer, say if you want healer and DPS, you can go for Arcanist and get a Scholar Summoner up. But if you're not super keen on that playstyle, then yeah, I'd say probably Conjurer is solid. That's what I went through with my husband on. He did Paladin, I did Conjurer, and it was honestly a blast. And you never have to worry about any queues, literally ever. Yeah. And because you're always 2 anchor points in the group as the tank and the healer, if you get your own flow, usually you can really like have a good control over whatever you're in and feel pretty confident about it.
I think it's also important too. They mentioned that they're new to the game. You can always choose a different class on that same character as well. If you are, you know, doing a tank or you're doing a healer and it's not for you, try a DPS, try, you know, something else. And you can still always go back and, you know, if you want to keep leveling that. So yeah, I mean, it's just, really, you got to get a feel for what you want to play and what you have the most fun for, especially if you're newer to an MMO. There's a lot of just kind of like MMO things, right, to kind of get a feel for. Obviously, a lot of that stuff is kind of borrowed from more traditional RPGs, but it's just, yeah, it's gonna take time to kind of find that little niche that, you know, you enjoy. So if she's healing, I would recommend, or I'm sorry, if she's tanking, I would recommend a healer, but you can always change that as well if she doesn't like tanking. Or if you don't like healing, you know, somewhere down the line, you can always just, you know, swap to a different job and level that and see how you like that one.
And I mean, oh no, Zen, you go.
Okay, I'm gonna echo these guys, saying that healer is probably the best way to go, especially if you're comfortable with healing. If you are maybe not as confident in healing, I'm gonna say it doesn't matter what you pick. Especially if you guys are going to be leveling together several jobs for an extended period of time. What a friend of mine and I do is we'll arrange it so that he's always a tanker healer when I am a DPS, and I am always a tanker healer when he's a DPS, to, like Rook said, keep those queues coming faster.
Yes.
So something you may want to consider if you're not as comfortable with Conjurer, because for Tanka's first job, your wife is probably going to want a conjurer that is pretty solid, if not just very attentive. So if you feel that that's you, do it. If you're not sure that that's you, it doesn't, I don't think it necessarily matters what you pick. The thing you'll maybe want to concentrate on at that point is who's gonna be popping them Qs the fastest.
Yeah, so just to explain that a little bit too, since they are a little bit newer to the game. So when you have your queues for dungeons, typically the most in-demand jobs are going to be healers or tanks. So if you have a party of 2, right? So if you could be on whatever, and they can be on, the other person can be a healer or a tank, your queues are going to go a lot faster. You'll get into the dungeons faster. You'll be able to get on with your time in the game a little quicker and get that experience faster, instead of just sitting there waiting for that timer and hoping that the people show up.
Right? There's the tank list, the white mage list, and the DPS list. And there are less players that play tank and healers, so you will be higher up on that list most times than the DPS that joins. But if you're number 1 and your DPS is 56, it doesn't matter, because that tank's going in first and bringing that DPS with them.
Yeah. And what we were talking about with the Summoner Scholar thing, right? So Arcanist being the starting class, that is kind of weird. It's the only shared class in the game. So it has one core class, which is Arcanist, and off of Arcanist, you have both Scholar, which is a shield healer, and Summoner, which is a like pet dot caster, right? And if you level that one, like maybe you want to be a healer for her in dungeons, but when you're out kind of doing quests in the world, you want to have more DPS. As long as you have those 2 geared, they will level simultaneously. So you could just like swap over to Summoner and just do some Summoner, or swap over to Scholar for a Q. They share some abilities, but they do have their own like unique kits. So you'll kind of be learning 2 classes at the same time and working through them, but that would give you some flexibility. From my own personal experience, I mean, like everybody was saying and Zen was saying, if you enjoy healing and it is something you feel comfortable with, I think it's super fun to play as the tank heal combo. Like, I'm just gonna be real.
And I think even if you're not comfortable healing too, just real quick, don't let that discourage you from trying to learn it either, right?
Yeah, you'll get better.
Yeah. If you're not sure if you can be that attentive conjurer like Zen was saying, you never know till you try either. So if you're new to the game, take some time and see if things are clicking. If they're not, look at the jobs. And
it's nice to be paired with that tank who's not going to be like, why aren't you healing me correctly, right?
Exactly.
It's your wife. She's going to be like, oh no, we messed up. Let's do it again. Whatever.
Or she'll go, why didn't you heal me? You're on the couch tonight. I mean, you never know.
I mean, it's super fun. Like when I first got into MMOs, my husband and I played tank and healer, and that wasn't, I don't know. It's so funny when people are like, oh yeah, well the guy's always a tank, and I'm like, more power to your wife for picking paladin. Like, heck yes, do it. But like, it was one of those things where I think those 2 classes work in tandem together, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the pace of each, like both of those roles in an instance or a dungeon, they work almost in tandem, because the tank's going to take big damage and the healer's going to respond to it. You're going to prep and learn encounters together. And it was so fun to do that with my husband, because we got to really like dive into the instances in a way, and we're sitting right next to each other, right? So like we can literally be talking to each other where he's like, oh, a tank buster's coming up, and I'm like, what button do I push for that again? Like it was a lot of fun to do that. Or when I finally got confident enough, this is years ago now, but like when I finally got confident enough to play, where I could be like, yeah, nah, I got you. Nah, I'm gonna heal your butt so good through this. Oh man, you just wait. You're never gonna want another healer with you ever again. Like, it's super fun. And I think that's kind of a unique relationship between those 2 that might be really enjoyable to do with your wife. It just might be, maybe not, but for us, it really was. So
yeah. As far as advice for new players to the game and MMORPGs, again, I know I'm gonna sound like a broken record, that progression guide on the wiki, definitely check it out. And again, it's ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions either, right? If you're in a group with some people running a dungeon and you're not sure what you should be doing, feel free to ask a question.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like previous one we covered a lot of this, but there are a million guides. There's a whole bunch of information out there. There's a lot of stuff to see, and I mean, even here on the podcast, right? People are always welcome to write in, and we try to answer or do, fun things like this. So there's a lot of good resources, and don't be afraid to make use of them. It doesn't mean that you don't know anything, or even if you're a veteran that you're somehow not like informed about the game. It just means that you're interested in learning more, and that can be a big help. Even if you might have more experience than your wife, it might be a big help to both go into it with that challenge of let's learn something together and feel like we're both going through this.
Yeah. And like I said before too, I mean, coming into, if you're new to both Final Fantasy XIV and MMOs, there's gonna be a point where maybe you look at an ability list or something and you see all the different spells a paladin gets, and it at some point will be overwhelming. Don't let it be. As you level, stuff slowly becomes unlocked. You slowly get used to having more abilities. It does get better with looking at, if you're watching somebody streaming, you're like, they have like 1,000 different buttons to press. It will make sense over time. You just have to casually, level up, go through it. And especially too, you can play this game with a keyboard and mouse. You can play it with a controller. You could get an MMO mouse, or there's different types of keyboards and controllers that you can use. Experiment a little bit. If one doesn't feel quite right, try something else. It's especially if you're new, there's going to be a lot of experimentation with the UI, your control setup, the job you want to play. There's going to be a lot that if you decide you want to stick with the game, there's a lot that you can play around with to make it more comfortable and enjoyable. So just, have a little patience, and if you're enjoying the game with what you've done so far, stick with it.
We believe in you. Yes. See you at
You
Endgame.
can do it.
Woo! I'm excited.
All right. Next question. First off, I want to wish you all a good evening, streamers. Good evening. It's noon for us, but maybe you'll be seeing this at night, so good evening. I personally play as...
Afternoon counts as evening.
Afternoon counts as evening?
Totally.
Wouldn't you just say good afternoon?
I'm just joking. I was just
oh. I didn't get it.
Really?
I personally play Monk as my main class. It was a class that I started with, the class that I take into endgame today. In an attempt to gain empathy with my fellow raiders, I try to branch out into other classes to understand their struggles, but they feel so slow in comparison. What can I do to make the leveling of other classes more enjoyable? So we talked a little bit about this earlier. Beast Tribe quests, you can do roulettes. Keep an eye out on Alliance raids in particular. Usually have there's that adventure needed role. Yeah, adventure need thing, where you can sometimes get bonuses. If you're doing DPS, usually Alliance raids adventure in need, from what I've seen on Aether Data Center, is DPS often, so that's a good option. Dungeons will also frequently have healer and tank as well, so just that's something to consider. Let's see, we said Beast Tribe quests. Palace of the Dead, Heaven on High. You can always switch classes as well. You don't necessarily need to pick one and then finish that one. If you want to mix it up, start leveling one. If you get a little bored, switch to another.
And if you do that kind of really repetitive content, you can always put Netflix or a podcast on. I mean, it's one of those things where, leveling, it takes time. And, one of the big things that a lot of people don't always know, but you probably have this effect already because you leveled Monk and it's your main, right? But there's that armory bonus. So if anybody's looking to level, get at least one class as high as you can, and then you're going to get like a proportional boost to experience gain for any other classes that you level, right? So if you have one level at 80, one class at 80, you get the highest boost right now for all those other classes. So after you've done that, it really does just kind of come down to this system of, okay, well, I'm going to do my roulette. I'm going to run that Beast Tribes. I'm going to maybe do hunts. You kind of go system, and some of it is just going to be kind of grindy. So whatever you can do to make that process more fun. Do your roulettes every morning with some of your FC mates. We do that. I've been leveling stuff trying to get the Amaro mount, and it's way more fun. Like, you're talking with everybody, you're goofing, everyone's drinking coffee, or at night, you know. Do some Netflix, listen to a podcast if it's something really grindy. They also sometimes...
Sorry, good.
Oh, I was gonna say they run sales sometimes on the level skips. So like if there are classes you feel comfortable on, what? What?
No, not a judgment. Just like oh yeah, that
it is an option. It is an option. And in your defense, you did quickly follow up with if you're comfortable on that class. So that's like,
if you're comfortable with
it,
role,
it was
right?
It was like oh, that is definitely a way to get to 80 quickly. Yes, that was the it wasn't a judgment. I'm sorry.
Like, now that Zen has judged me and I feel unsafe in this space. No, I'm kidding. I mean, look, let's be real. If you've played Monk, you probably have a general idea of how melee DPS works, right? So leveling those other classes from scratch, even though they will have different things, is gonna be you got it, right? So sometimes getting those level skips can be great, especially if you already kind of know that class or you're familiar with MMOs. They just finished up a big sale on them, and I picked up a few myself, I'm not gonna lie, because I only have so many hours, and getting classes from 70 to 80 is a lot faster than doing 1 to 80, So there's that if you can. But really, I mean, it just comes down to like giving some sort of cycle, goals, objectives, taking a break from it. If you get sick of doing the leveling thing, don't just do it for like 2 months and then burn yourself out. And shaking up the content you're doing.
Don't forget your FC buff that gives you extra experience.
Yes.
Your earring, if you possibly have that. Food gives, I think, 3% XP. So just like pile that stuff on so that you're getting as much XP in there as possible.
Anders in chat says the sale ends on the 29th. So
nice.
There you go. There's also, depending on if you've gotten like the collector's edition of expansions, they'll come with an earring that'll give you an XP boost. So make sure to, don't forget about that. But yeah, I remember leveling the first like 5 seasons of Game of Thrones got me through a lot of my crafting and gathering back in the day. Like I would just have it on and just, sit there, hit my crafting macros while I'm watching, Jon Snow over here. But I mean, mix it up. Don't be afraid to don't feel like you're committed to finishing something in one go, or, mix it up, try a different job or level something else. And
something good to know about those accessories is that they apply to any classes that fall within that level bracket. So like, is the brand new ring? It doesn't give you an experience boost past 30, I want to say, or somewhere around there. Yeah. But that means that any class, literally any class that you pick up that you're starting at 1 on, if you equip that brand new ring on them up until you hit level 30 on that class, you get that experience boost. Same with like Friendship Circlet and some of the other things. So I know I didn't pick up on that when I was first playing, because I was like, oh, well, I already have 1 class to 80, so these items are useless to me. But if you put them on those low class characters, that helps. And then this one's a little bit more unconventional. I'm over here with the Terror Office. Get level skips. Transfer servers to a preferred world.
That's a very significant boost. You're not wrong. That is a good boost on that preferred world.
And I know people, I haven't done it myself, but if you really are trying, like if you're trying to get all your classes to 80, and you're not, involved in a whole bunch of crazy social stuff on whatever world you're on, it costs money, but you can transfer your character to a preferred world and get that significant experience boost and power level a whole bunch of stuff, and then either transfer back or, stay there, maybe find an FC. So I know people who do that too.
Yeah. And Sci Guy over here in chat adds to that if you go into a dungeon that sinks you down to that level, that piece of equipment will still work because you are synced down to that level. So that's good to note. If you end up on something lower level.
Even if your character is like technically level 40, but you get queued into a level 25 dungeon or 18, you can put that brand new ring on still because you're technically under 30 and you still get an experience boost, which is kind of bonkers. And I'm surprised I haven't catched that.
Just don't say that. One thing I did want to add, if you are playing monk as your main, you may or may not be one of those people who is like, I really want to be as good as I can be at this class. Maybe if you take that same approach with the jobs that you're leveling, instead of just being like, and I'm doing this other thing, hitting the buttons that I think are correct, head on over to balance and maybe check out the actual end game rotation, so that you can get as close to that as possible as you're leveling up. If that's the sort of like min-max type thing that you as a player enjoy, that might make your experience leveling up other jobs more fun. Granted, you're not going to be able to get that whole rotation in there because you won't have all the abilities all the way up to 80, but you could maybe get some sort of similar thing going on and I guess train yourself so that when you do get to 80, you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing.
That's
may
the
or may
weird
not
thing.
be something
Leveling...
that actually interests you, though.
Yeah, after getting, you know, with any expansion, right, you get one job to the new cap, and then everything after that is like, it's just a level grind, and then I'll worry about the gear and the rotation after that, right? It's for some people, you know, it's like I'm leveling dancer, and I have an idea of what I'm doing, but once I get it to 80, once I have all that gear on, then I'll take a look at the rotation and make sure that it's good, which may be a bad idea, right? It might, you know,
I don't think it matters either way.
It could depend on the person, right? Like for, you know, you might have like developed habits, right? And then like the actual like end game rotation, you're like, oh, that's not at all what I always do. Ooh, okay. I'm supposed to hold on to how many feathers? Ooh, okay.
Exactly. That was the example I was gonna give. Like as you're leveling up, you just fire those off. It doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I would say I do see here in the chat. I was gonna say real fast. It does look like I had done this, so I didn't actually totally know. You have to create a character on a preferred server to get that road to 70. So if you're not too far into the game, you could create a character on one of those preferred servers and get a big boost to all the levels. But if you transfer, it may not apply. So double check that in case I was wrong.
Not 100%.
Yeah. All right. Next question.
Good luck having fun. I hope something works for you. I don't want you to not have fun as you're leveling.
Yeah. Remember to have fun. Yeah. This one comes from Square Lukester. Says, if Yoshi P successfully gets his dream crossover with World of Warcraft, which World of Warcraft antagonist would you love to battle in Final Fantasy XIV?
I am disqualified from this question.
I don't play Warcraft either.
Oh, I totally got this. I only played World of Warcraft for 1
It's all
year,
you.
But I got this. I got this. This is really, we're gonna do so good at this because I can't remember the name of it. So this is gonna kill.
No.
I'm gonna kill.
I could just fire off an Kel'Thuzad. Is that a bad guy?
Ooh, that sounds like a bad guy. No, mine would definitely be, okay, there's an old raid, and if somebody in the chat guesses before me, please feel free. There's an old raid that is, it's like the Ancients, and there's like a star dome in it, and all of these like ancient like the giants, like the titans almost, and it's super mysterious, and there's all this cool stuff in it. I loved that one. So I mean, I only played Uldum. That's what it is.
I was gonna say Molten Core. That's the only one I know of. I don't.
It's so cool. I just think it's gorgeous, and I only played WoW for like a year, but that raid wing still has stuck with me. Like I went through it, and I went through it with Bebop, and we just did it ourselves because, you know, you're so OP at a certain point that you can just run through the whole thing. And Ulduar, sorry. And it's gorgeous. I love the designs. I love the bosses. It's so beautiful. And even though it's probably not one of the most iconic villains in the franchise, I would love to see it in Final Fantasy.
I think if they did a crossover, I think they would go a little less specific, and they would just have you fight like a giant Murloc, and you'd get like a Murloc minion at the end of it. Yeah, see that? That's what we'd get. We'd get
my husband played WoW for years and years and years, so I know some of the words. I don't know who they are. Apparently, Kel'Thuzad was the founder of the Cult of the Damned, so that's a bad guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
He sounds like he would be in charge of a Cult of the Damned.
I'd also go for Rude Iceman.
The Lich King.
You mean Arthur?
I'd go for Rude Iceman. And then I'd also go for the...
Is that the title you get after you fight that trial,
No,
Rude
but it's
Iceman?
the title of the episode now.
Oh no.
I assign nicknames to everything. This happens all the time too on my stream where I'm like, you know that one guy whose nose was really big and everybody kept making fun of him for his backpack, and everyone's like, Rook. Okay, so the Lich King, Rude Iceman. I would also do the Pandaria raid because that one was beautiful, even though I wasn't totally sold at first on Pandaland, which is kind of weird because Kung Fu Panda is one of my favorite animated films, but I would do that one because that one's also really beautiful. Gosh, there's just so many. A rude woman who was an elf who became a mermaid. Who comes back.
Are they all rude?
Believe it or not, most of the villains are rude, yes, in World of Warcraft. So, yes, mermaid woman.
Sylvanas is the name I recognize.
I really want to just sit down at the next FanFest and just give Rook a bunch of blank Cards Against Humanity cards and just see what happens.
Yes.
They're all so good, though. I mean, there are a lot of iconic villains from World of Warcraft, and one of the things that I do love about World of Warcraft are the raids and a lot of those villains, because even if I didn't play it that long, I mean, the fact that years later now, I still remember a lot of these. I remember the fights. Like, I remember the Lich King fight, and you're trading off that debuff, and like, there were a lot of interesting things that I did really enjoy from those, and I think it'd be fun to see those two come together.
I think they'd have to be careful doing anything too specific, though. I mean, you look at some of the other collaborations we've had, you know, with like Monster Hunter. It's like, all right, here's like the Palico that like everybody has. Here's the dragon that like everybody will see, you know. And even if you don't play Monster Hunter, you still, I think you can still have an idea of like, oh, I kind of know what that is. Like all this other stuff we're talking about, and like I'm like, I don't know any of these things, but it's like a Murloc. I know what a Murloc is, you know, and it's like that's easy enough to do, right? Oh, there was a crate and it was full of Murlocs, and now you got to go get the Murlocs, and now here's a Murloc minion, and there's the collaboration.
As long as it makes the noise, I'm in.
Yes, Murloc would be good. And then WoW could get a Moogle, and we could kind of swap them. Or maybe an Namazu. Namazu would be fun.
Oh, that makes sense too, because they're both little watery dudes.
They're both little watery dudes.
There you go. That's it. That's the collab.
Like, I would love it if we got a big one fight. Like, if you've done the Namazu quests and you know about the big one, like, I would be so happy if at some point they did that. And if they did that in WoW, I'd probably resub and go play it. So.
There you go.
Just to get that.
That's how these collabs work. That's
what it's for. So sorry we didn't answer your question that well, but I didn't play WoW very much. I played 11. Sorry.
I feel like I did a pretty good job. I mean,
Rude Iceman is
Rude Iceman, old ancient titans in a star observatory, lady who was an evil elf who turned into a mermaid. I feel like all of these were iconic.
It's weird because as soon as Zen's like, we're gonna name this Rude Iceman, the only thing that I can think of is like somebody that submitted a question is like, I wonder if they read mine, and they pull it up and like the title is Rude Iceman. They're like, I hope I'm not the Rude Iceman. I thought my question was worded kindly. I don't want to be a Rude Iceman. No. So I think here's what we're gonna do. We are about halfway through right now. We're at about an hour and a half. We'll do one more, and then we'll get to the rest of these next week.
Thanks everybody who wrote in.
And then the week after that will be live letter. So
yeah.
Our last question is, what is the best way to recruit players into your FC on a populated server?
Shouts and Party Finder. Reddit also, probably. A lot of people do Reddit. It kind of depends on what your FC is for.
Yeah, don't use I don't even remember the name of them anymore because they sucked so much. What were those things they added that we don't like?
Fellowships.
Fellowships? Yeah, don't use fellowships. Whatever you do, don't use fellowships.
Yeah,
I don't even remember it anymore. Like that's how
terrible.
bad they are.
The fellowships are awful because nobody can search for you. I mean, I guess you could use it as a tool if like if people know and would like a request, they can try to find you. But even knowing that, I mean, Zen and I went round and round and round, just me trying to find the listing and just even join the fellowship. Like it was never ending.
Don't even worry about it.
I still don't think you managed to find it, right?
I didn't. No, I never did. So I'll never be a part of the Gamer Escape Fellowship.
As far as I'm concerned, there's only one fellowship, and it's of the Ring. So,
there's so many.
Not rage quit. I will not rage quit Ultimate, but I rage quit Fellowships.
That's fair.
Done.
That's fair.
No, but when it comes to this, I think the big no-no for me, and this might have even come from that 1 year that I played WoW, is please don't message people 700 times trying to, like, any players you see that aren't in a fellowship, don't tell them or whisper them and be like, hey, join my fellowship. Hey, what's up? Or sorry, hey, join my free company.
Free company.
The fellowships are haunting me. Don't like come join my free company. Come join my free company. Because it's uncomfortable and they'll probably just block you.
A lot of what I see people do is they'll do shouts in the hub cities. And it depends on what kind of free company it is as well. Like if you're looking for like hardcore in-game raiders, the 3 starting city states probably aren't the best place to do that because you're gonna get newer players. Or maybe you want newer players, then yeah, do those first 3 cities. But there's really not a great, like, this is one of those things that, and without trying to hate on fellowships again more, right? One of the things that we did talk about is how the social systems in 14 are disjointed when they should be just one big, like, really good thing instead of like something, you know, of multiple different little things. And one of the things that Final Fantasy XI does really well that 14 does not have is an NPC where you can be like, I'm looking for people for my link shell, right? That's what we have in 11. It's not, well, you don't have like a free company. You can just have a bunch of link shells. You can give a vendor link pearls, and people looking for a group can go to that NPC and look at all the different shells that are looking for people and pick one. Yeah. They've had it for years, and I think it's fantastic, especially if you're coming back into the game and you log in, you're like, oh, I don't have anybody in my link shell anymore. Go to this NPC and you can find another group. I don't know why 14 doesn't have that. Like, that seems, it's one of those, like, seems really obvious to have that. But yeah, it's, you know,
the answer
shouting
is there is no good way.
Yeah, there is no good way. I see people shouting.
Reddit is a big one. The official forums. Typically, like, static or
there are recruitment, I think, forums or subreddit or something. We used to have one back in the day when we had forums. Remember when we had forums?
Look at so good.
Yeah, the important thing
people use those
is to not be annoying with it. Don't send tells directly to people. If you're gonna do like a shout for it, do it like once every, you know, 10 minutes or something, right? It don't be like every minute you're like hitting that button. Just people are gonna like blacklist you because it's annoying. Just be friendly about it. If you know,
in a party finder, or not a party finder, like if you're in a roulette, and especially if you were looking for new people and you come across some sprouts, you're like, hey, I had a lot of fun with you guys. You're really good players. Are you looking for an FC?
Yeah, I mean, really, people, it's funny because this is such an amorphous sort of thing, right? So, I mean, you have to figure out, yes, what your FC is sort of geared towards. So, like we were saying, if you're all about helping new players, there is a field. There are fields of sprouts out there that you can go.
Pluck them.
Go cook them. No, you can, like, go to the...
Whoa.
I'm sorry. What? Oh. Go cook those sprouts and make yourself healthy.
Rook invites you to Hansel and Gretel FC.
Cannibalism.
Come into my house, children. We have 3 buffs, and we'll feed them to you.
There's a chair in the fireplace. It's not practical, but it looks funny if you sit in it.
My
no,
goodness.
Please don't cook the sprouts. But give me 1 second. I've got some sirens. Go by.
I think she's just dodging it now. After all this, she's like, I just want to get away from. I'm not actually trying to cook people.
I swear, I have a helpful thing, not about being a crazy witch in the woods. So, for new players, if you're looking to recruit new players, and new players are going to be a big source of people that are looking for a free company, they're looking to get connected, but they're going to be inexperienced. So you want to make sure you have resources for them, right? But one of the best ways to get connected is just take like a stack of food with you, go to a major city hub, look for sprouts, and then go up and say, hey, here's some food to help you level. If you pop this, you'll get a buff. I hope you have a really great time in Eorzea. Like, is this your first time playing? Just talk to them. See if they need any help. Offer them a little something. Or if you've got a bajillion gil because
this has sounded a little bit too much like a stranger in a van offering me candy.
No,
I mean, it still sounds like the lady in the woods offering you candy to come into their house.
Come join the dark side. We have cookies.
This is a helpful lady in the woods. She's a kind, helpful lady in the woods.
She's not going to eat you.
She's not going to eat you, I promise.
She's out of barbecue sauce. She can't. She needs the flavor. She doesn't have it. You're fine.
Like,
you're safe.
If you're a mentor, you can with that. Like, say, has anybody given you an invite to the Novice Network? That sort of thing, right? And I actually have had a lot of new players who really feel welcomed by that, and they don't know about the food buffs, or they, you give them a little gil and they start things off, and you just chat with them. You can do that easily, and the same goes for like if you are maybe not geared towards sprouts or newcomers. If you're looking for like raid statics, those sorts of things, usually people go to like Reddit and stuff like that. But if you're just looking for like a social guild, or maybe you're doing RP events, people will always be drawn to people who seem to be having fun. That sounds very silly, but it's the truth. So like if you are looking to recruit, if you're looking to recruit more people, put together some events with everybody that's in your FC, even if there's only 5 of you. Make sure that everybody's got their FC tags visible and all that good stuff. And then go out, do hunts, go out, do an RP event somewhere public, laugh, joke, have a good time. The amount of people that I've had request to join an FC after seeing a group of people from the FC who seem to be having fun is pretty high, honestly. And the same goes for like if you're a streamer or things like that. Showcasing your community and what makes it special can make people want to come join. But just make sure you know like what you're looking for, and that the people you're bringing in, you're providing something to, right? Whether that's, if we're a rating FC, we have raids that we run these days of the week. You can sign up for them here, or whatever it is, because then people will stay and not just join. And you really want to have that retention and things for your community to bond over and have a good time through.
Yeah. And I think
Who is updated the items that give extra XP. I guess there's 7 of them, and the list on Gamerscape has been updated.
Yay!
All right, so there you go. Make sure to check that out. So we're gonna call it right there. We still do have, that's like half of the questions that we had. So we are going to cover the rest of those next week. Sorry if we didn't get to yours today. The first one took like 30 minutes. I was not expecting that at all. But that's good.
To say, man.
That's good, right? So we'll definitely be going through the rest of them next week. Week after that, we'll be talking about the live letter. Maybe the week after that, we'll be talking about the patch. We don't, it's coming up here pretty soon here, mid-February. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. We'll see you guys here next week. If you want, you can email us, aetheryteradio@gamerescape.com. Send us any questions or comments. You can tweet at us at aetheryteradio. You can also find us on Twitter at Gamerescape and Aetheryte Radio, and then Facebook as Gamerescape, and Discord. Come and join our Discord channel here at discord.gg/Gamerescape. Thank you so much. Thank you to Zen and Rook for joining us today. Sorry that Aldino is under the weather. Hopefully he'll be back here next week with us. And until then, we'll see you guys here next week.
Goodbye, everybody.